Hi, thank you for tuning in to The Ugly Truth. I'm your host, Big Baby, and I wanted to come to y'all today in the midst of everything that's been going on with the murder of George Floyd and everything going on with the protesting, and come to you and talk to you about racism in today's world. I asked a few friends of mine to say something, tell me how they feel about the subject, their experiences and how they feel about it. And here's what they had to say. Let's listen and let's keep an open heart.
Hey everybody, it's Kenzie. Um, I just wanted to take a quick second and just uh, try to get out how I feel about everything that's going on. A couple days ago, Big Baby asked me how I felt, and it's taken me a few days to try to get my thoughts into words um, because this is just so much, and I have so many emotions. But for one, I do want to say that I do feel that George Floyd was murdered. I don't feel that George Floyd was murdered by the police, the Minnesota Police Department. I feel that George Floyd was murdered by the heart of the man that was wearing the police department's uniform. And the men that were around him allowed that to happen at any given time. At any given time, someone could have said, pushed him, said, hey, Lee, up. Something could have happened. And within those 8 minutes, something, a half a second or something could have changed the whole story of this. It could have. And I think it is wrong. I think that the injustice that we have in our system has to be evaluated. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Going forward, if you have hate in your heart, you cannot be a police officer. If you got hate for anything in your heart, you cannot be a police officer. If you got a hate for black folks, you cannot be a police officer. If you got hate for immigrants, if you got a hate for Mexicans, if you got a hate for Indians, if you got a hate for Asians, if you got a hate for anything, anybody, if you got a hate in your hand for an ant, you should not be able to be a police officer. And that's how I feel going forward. I want justice for George Floyd. I want the cops to go to jail for the rest of their lives. I want new laws to be in place so when these situations happen, there's a law to protect us. And when the world participates and the world is listening to us, just for a moment, I don't care if this doesn't last. That is the beautiful thing. I pray that it lasts forever, but we all know how this situation sometimes ends. But at least for a moment, we were listened to. Even if they don't change everything overnight, we were listened to. I really appreciate white America, because not all white Americans are racist. A lot of them are. But I appreciate the white America that is standing with us, who are having the difficult conversations with their family members who are racist. I've seen a lot of teenagers, having these conversations with their parents, and I salute you. I fucking salute you so much, because people never realize that racism is something else. Racism will cause someone to disown a family member for loving someone outside their other race. And that is one of the most hurtful things that you can do. So I salute anybody who is having those difficult conversations with friends, having difficult conversations with family members, having those difficult conversations with coworkers. What we have been living cannot go forward. We are in 2020. Equal. If it ain't equal, it ain't right. And I say that for all of us. Black Lives Matter right now, because we got to get this shit in the butt. But once we're done, we're going to nip this shit in the butt, and we got to take care of everything else too. America, if we're going to live here, it needs to be equal for everybody. Everybody. And this generation is going to change that. I believe it. In my lifetime, I get to see that change. I believe that. I'm going to stick with that. I can't be our previous generations that keep saying there's change ain't coming, change ain't coming. A part of me is doubtful, don't get me wrong, but I can't let that doubt overshadow the fact that I'm 35, and at some point in my life, I'm going to see that equaling. I'm going to see that equality. I believe it because the generation behind me is strong. The generation behind me wants to see that change and that action. They're getting ready to make that happen. So, Big Baby, I appreciate you asking me how I feel about this. You can copy paste whatever you need to do to the video, but I do appreciate you letting me get my thoughts out. Have a good one.
Throughout the protest, I thought it was important to talk to my almost 7-year-old son about what's happening, because it's such a powerful thing to educate our children, educate people that maybe don't have the perspective or have never heard the perspective of somebody that has been racially profiled or had something like that happen to them, or even witnessed it happen to somebody else. Many people in this world realistically don't believe it exists because they haven't seen it or experienced it. That doesn't make it not real. So I appreciate that the white people are starting to listen, and hopefully we make a change faster and do a lot fucking better than we ever have, because it's enough. We need to do better. And if we see someone else doing it, you speak up and you stand up and you correct it. I had to have the conversation with my son to explain to him the basic concept of racism. My son is part black but looks white like me, and most would never know that he has that heritage and that he's blessed to have that heritage. And as a result of that, my child's going to have white privilege and some kick-ass abilities, let's just say that. He's very talented. But at the same time, I want to make sure that he sticks up for his people and sticking up against people that look like him when it's the right opportunity to do so. When I explained to him what happened, he said, well, why don't they just go arrest that guy? It's so simple, right? Why can't we think that way? It's that simple. We have to do better.
In 1492, the first Europeans landed in the Americas, and they brought with them what became known as the American system of chattel slavery. The forced enslavement of black and brown people who were seen as genetically inferior to their European captors quickly became commonplace in the New World. The black and brown people of the Americas were forced from their lands, stripped of their identity, their dignity, nobility, and wealth, and forced to serve a foreigner on their own lands. This system of enslavement continued even long after the first Americans arrived in 1619. As an indigenous Navajo man and a black man, I have watched as European colonizers claim ownership of stolen lands whose cities are built upon the blood and tears of black and brown people. Even after the abolishment of slavery in 1896 with the Lincoln's Proclamation and leading up to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, America's greatest sin continues to stain and haunt black and brown people today. I was born shortly after the conclusion of the Civil Rights Movement and a little over a decade after the passage of the Civil Rights Act. As a child, I grew up in a time where black and brown people were struggling to gain their political and economic footing in America. I experienced the divergent lives black and brown people lived for their white counterparts in America, where we lived under the pressure of heightened policing, low unemployment outcomes, and the consistent maligning of black people in Reagan's America. As a black child, I learned quickly that I needed to be strong. I realized that as a black man, being brown in America meant that I would live under the systemic and institutional racism that built this country. Today, in the age of social media and the Make America Great Again sentiment, nothing is more ironic than when you try to engage in healthy debate and you are met with the retort of, well, if you don't like it, go back to where you came from. As an indigenous Navajo man, this is where I came from. This is my land that was stolen from my people. And then as a black man, my people were taken from their lands and built the wealth that we have been excluded from. America is stolen land built on the backs of black and brown people, and that seems to be forgotten in political discourse. Every day I ask myself, can a black man who has lost his village to thieves, lost his daughters and goods to looters, recapture what was taken from him over 600 years ago?
Hi, I'm Jill Kimmel. I am a comic out of Phoenix, Arizona, and I want to address the topic of racism. Racism to me, disgusting, obviously, but the thing that stands out about it the most to me, I guess, as a mother, is that I never have to worry about my white son walking out of the house. No, I go, do you have enough money on you? You got the car keys? Do you have enough gas? Oh, it's hot out. Do you have a little sunscreen? Those are the things I worry about. I don't worry if he's going to be murdered at the hands of a policeman or someone else in authority. I don't worry about that. And my black friends do worry about that. And so that's the backbone of racism to me, is the at the very core, you should never have to worry about your child in that way. It's something that just, I can't even imagine. No, you know what? I can imagine. And it sickens me and it terrifies me, and it's why we have to fight. It's why Black Lives Matter, and it's why we've got to march and get out there and support black businesses and do whatever we can. Ask your black friends. I know that sounds, oh, ask your black friends. No, ask your black friends what they need from you. Ask them, do you need me to march with you? Do you need me to stand behind you while you march? Do you need me to email people, text people, tweet? Do you need me to, whatever they need you to do, find out. Because your talents will be used better in different ways. Some people might be good at the marching, whatever it is. Ask your black friends how you can help be an anti-racist. Because black lives fucking matter.
I want to thank everybody who participated in those statements. I definitely appreciate it. And with that being said, I just want to leave you with these final thoughts. There's always wondering why some people are racist. And here's what I came up with. You know, our views and beliefs develop as we grow up and are influenced by friends and family, neighborhoods, schools, and what we see and read in the media. People who grow up in a family where racist views are expressed, or have friends who make racist jokes, might learn to believe that racism is normal and acceptable. It's not, especially if they haven't had the chance to interact with people from other cultures or backgrounds. Racism can sometimes begin as a reaction to world events or news stories. At other times, someone who has had a painful personal experience with someone from a particular racial group might blame everyone of that race. Everyone makes assumptions. This can happen when they don't have the opportunity to learn about alternative views. It's never okay to discriminate someone based on their race. If you're worried about how your views might affect other people, it can help to imagine being someone else, or try walking a mile in their shoes. I want to thank you. Please love everyone, and please pay it forward. Have a great day.